Hello and welcome back to Smash Hit Sports. We are doing our last conference preview, so if you haven't seen the other four, make sure to go check them out and subscribe to the channel because this is the best college football content on the internet. But the Big 12 preview in what was a wildly unpredictable Big 12 last year, TCU by a lot of people's standards could have been the worst team in the Big 12 last year. They ended up going undefeated in regular season play and then got smoked in the national championship. Who would have thought? I cannot wait to see what your opinions are on this Big 12, Nick, because I am going to be honest. This conference is insane. Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. This is their last year, but they already went ahead and brought in the four new teams, Houston, UCF, BYU, and Cincinnati. A lot of those teams are going to be experiencing Power 5 for the first time. It's going to be chaos, and I can't wait.
Yeah, it easily the least predictable conference. But again, like you said, who would have thought, right? I hate to shamelessly plug myself again here, but TCU,
yeah, it's painful, dude. Dude, it's so painful just plugging yourself.
It is, but I had TCU undefeated last year. It should show you that I researched this shit a lot, right? And I'm looking for teams that have narratives, that have storylines, that have things, some energy around them, right? It's not all numbers. And the Big 12, I think numbers matter the least out of all the conferences. We saved the best for last. We saved the most chaotic for last, and I'm pumped to get into it.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. We did save the most chaotic for last. Let's start with the Baylor Bears. They have a pretty difficult schedule for the most part. They play some of the bigger teams in the Big 12. They play Texas. They play Texas Tech. They play Kansas State. They also play a game against Utah at home. This is a team that I'm not 100% sure how I feel about them. I think Dave Aranda's a good coach. I think Blake Shapen is a good quarterback when he plays well and a bad quarterback when he plays shitty, which he tends to do from time to time. What are your thoughts on the Bears?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was just 2 years ago that Baylor had a pretty good season, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago they won the conference.
Yeah, like they were fantastic, and then they had a step back year, and they have a transfer, Sawyer Robinson from Mississippi State, who I think could take Blake Shapen out of his job if things don't start off great. Which again, Texas State is a gimme, but Utah, I do have them losing. So we'll see how Blake Shapen plays there. But it just feels so recent that they were good that it's weird for me to just assume that they're going to not be good anymore.
Yep.
Like why is that going to happen? So I think they are kind of a sleeper. Not a lot of people are talking about them. A lot of people are Texas Tech, blah blah blah. But I wasn't willing to risk it, so I have them at 7-5. Kind of playing it safe. What's their win total? Do you have it?
Yeah, their win total 6.5. So 7-5. You have the over. Makes sense. I'm on the same side of this boat as you are. I have them at 8-4. They play a pretty good schedule. I have them losing a fluky game to Houston in Week 10. I also have them losing to TCU at TCU late in the season. I have them losing to Texas and Utah, but I think this Baylor team will be. Dave Aranda is a good coach. Dave Aranda is a very good coach. I don't expect them to have a losing season 2 years in a row. They went 6-7 last year. I like the Bears. Sick them 8-4.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I have them beating Houston at home. I get that though, right? You kind of got to call your shots sometimes. I have them losing at Kansas State and at TCU. To end the year, and then at UCF versus Texas and versus Utah. So 7-5. We'll get to some of those teams later, but
yeah. So let's go to the first new team of the Big 12, BYU, coming from independent into the Big 12, which you hate to see independent teams join a conference. I personally just think all of the independent teams should remain independent. Totally unbiased.
Yeah. That makes sense to you saying that, right?
In that statement.
Notre Dame to the ACC.
Puke. BYU is
You already
a really
play all of them. All right, we'll talk about that later. Go on.
BYU plays a cupcake out of conference schedule until they get to Arkansas at Arkansas. I have them dropping that game. But it'll be interesting. They'll have Keaton Slovis is BYU's quarterback, which, God, how many teams has that guy been on? Their win
How is he
total
still in the
is,
league?
dude, I don't know. But their win total is sitting at 4.5 headed into the Big 12. What are your thoughts on this BYU team?
Yeah, I mean, they as an independent weren't recruiting, like they just couldn't recruit really, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's BYU is so interesting because there is the whole religious aspect to it.
Yep.
So sometimes they'll get some really big name players just based on Mormonism or some shit like that, you know? But they still haven't been able to get talent recently. I think that will change now that they're in the Big 12, but we're not going to see the effects of that change this year or probably next year, but it will happen eventually. They're a storied program, right? Like they've had Jim McMahon and those teams.
Ty Detmer? They had Ty Detmer back in the day?
Yeah, Ty Detmer. Like they've had like BYU. I think some younger people might just assume that like why is Brigham Young in the Big 12? It's a storied program. We're just not going to see it this year. I have them going 4-8. Slovis, I have no idea what to expect. He's just been on too many teams. I like their new defensive coordinator. Again, it's a Big 12 that doesn't thrive on defense still. So could see a pretty good defense from BYU this year. But the offense is probably going to be pretty anemic. I have them losing or winning against Sam Houston, Southern Utah, Iowa State, and then at the very end of the year at Oklahoma State. Yay. Congratulations.
So I also have them going 4-8. I have them beating the first two schools, and then I have them winning against Cincinnati at home and then at West Virginia, who we'll talk about those two teams. I think those two teams are the worst two teams in the Big 12. So, but yeah, BYU. That's the losing Jaron Hall is going to be tough for them. Like he was a really good quarterback for BYU last year, and not having him, he left for the NFL draft, is going to hurt that team. But let's talk about Cincinnati. In probably my opinion, the biggest downgrade in terms of coaching, going from Luke Fickell to Scott Satterfield. I have Scott Satterfield outside of my top 50 head coaches I have them outside of my top 60 head coaches in Power 5. I think he's in the bottom 10. I don't like him as a head coach. Louisville was practically begging to get rid of him before they brought in Jeff Brom. Cincinnati's win total is 5. Their roster had transfers all over the place because of Fickell leaving. They do have Dante Corleone on the defensive line. He's going to be very good. He's likely a first-round draft pick. I mean, the dude is an absolute stud. However, they're starting you remember this name? Emory Jones is the starting quarterback for the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Florida?
From Florida. Yes.
Oh, my.
So a name that we haven't heard in a while.
Was he after Trask? Was he that 2021 Florida quarterback, or was...
Let me take a look.
For some reason, I hear Emory Jones, and I'm like, that was like 2018. But that doesn't make any sense.
So he was, after Trask, he was in 2020, or split with Trask, I don't know, but he played in 2021. And then 2022, he transferred to Arizona State. And then when they brought in Drew Pine, and obviously Arizona State's head coach got fired, he is now transferred to Cincinnati. So
yeah, I mean, makes sense. I didn't know he was at Arizona State. I don't watch Arizona State play football.
He threw 7 touchdowns last year. So
he had what?
He threw 7 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, so. All right, good for him. Yeah, he's it's enticing. That is promising considering what I have them at. I got him. I feel like you're gonna hate this. I know you're gonna hate this.
Yep.
I got him at 7-5.
Oh my god.
And I guess I didn't think about the offense as much as I should have. I
The
I
defense
saw Emory
is
Jones.
going to be good.
I don't even think Emory Jones clicked in my mind. I was just like, oh, vet transfer, who's a Power 5 vet transfer. It just didn't click. Like, oh, that's the same guy from Florida. And again, they did have so many people transfer out, which sucks. But they also were recruiting really, really well on the defensive side of the ball before Fickle left, and a lot of them stayed. Like,
Yes.
their defense should be really good, like tops of the Big 12.
Yeah,
And that
no,
was
I
just
agree
my
with that.
rationale is that, like, I was looking at their schedule and I was like, they can beat Kansas, West Virginia, Iowa State, BYU, UCF, Miami of Ohio, and Eastern Kentucky. I think they can win those games from their defense. And in my head, before I made this prediction, their offense wasn't going to be dreadful. Now I'm sort of not so sure I did enough research on Cincinnati, but I have it written down and I'm talking about it now. So this is official, folks. It's confirmed. I have them 7-5, and I'm just going to have to hope that happens. But I'm a believer. I believe in this team. I do.
Well, I don't. It sounds like we're going to have another South Carolina situation in our hands here where we are way off on each other's totals. I have them at 4-8. I have them as the second worst team in the Big 12. Their defense should be good. Their offense is going to be dreadful. So, and I'm not a fan of Satterfield as a head coach.
No, I mean, I get it. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. This is different than South Carolina. I actually know what I'm talking about with South Carolina a little bit more.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I stand by my prediction with them. If Cincinnati goes 4-8, I'm going to pretend like I never said they were going 7-5. But if they go 7-5, I will be rubbing it in your face. So,
you absolutely should. Let's move on to the other American team that joined the Big 12 in Houston. Houston's win total is 4.5. Dana Holgorsen seems like a fun coach to drink a beer with, but that's about all the good things that I can say about this Houston team right now. They lost Clayton Tune as their quarterback. He went to the NFL draft, and the guy that they're bringing in, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he is not the same style of quarterback that Dana Holgorsen has had in the past. He's got more rushing upside than Clayton Tune does, but he's not as dialed in as a passer. Houston's going to be a very interesting team. Their out-of-conference schedule is UTSA, Rice, and Sam Houston State. So their out-of-conference schedule is entirely Texas teams. They aren't going to be leaving the state a whole hell of a lot. But
their first 4 games are in Texas. No, first 5.
Yep.
Wow. And 6 of their first 7. That's kind of crazy. I didn't look at it like that. But Donovan Smith is their new quarterback.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty good quarterback. He started, I believe, last year, more than half the games. I feel like he could be a starter at some other teams in this conference. UTSA is not a team to sleep on, in my opinion. We'll talk about Group of 5 teams later, but I have them sweeping the out of conference. I have them going 6-6. Again, it's the adjustment and the recruiting deficiencies. They did pretty well in the portal, but they also lost a lot. They lost a good amount to the draft. And I think out of all teams that could have, immediate massive changes, I think it could be Houston, just because they could kind of poach some of the Texas recruiting pretty easily. They've had really good seasons during our lifetime, like 2016. Whenever the Ed Oliver years, blah blah blah. And so this year I have them 6-6, making a bowl. I think people. What's their win total?
So their win total is 4.5.
Okay, yeah. So again, that makes sense. Like I really don't see them going much better than 6-6, but I do think that they are going to have a respectable year, right? So maybe 4.5 feels a bit low to me. Maybe I'll take that over.
Yeah, I am not quite as high on Houston, but I bet our games are probably the Big 12's weird. I'm sure our schedule, they're scattered all over the place, but I actually do have them dropping that week 1 game against UTSA.
Yeah, which is so fair. Yeah.
That's UTSA with Frank Harris is one of my favorite group of 5 teams. They're one of the best. And I think like they should have a good year. I have Houston at 5-7. Like they should have a good year. I have them just missing a bowl game. But like you, long term, Houston is set up for success in the Big 12. Being able to recruit the Houston area and the Houston market is going to be huge for them. And they've had good, like solid teams in the past. I expect them to, make strides in this conference pretty quickly. I just don't have them making a bowl game this season.
Right, which is fair. I was like kind of coin flipping my way from 5-7 to 6-6. I just haven't beaten UTSA. I wouldn't touch that game week 1 if there was a gun to my head. So I'll roll with it. I'll roll with Houston just for the sake of this.
Yeah. So Iowa State is under a lot of controversy right now. So at the time I did my research, their win total was 5.5. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Their starting quarterback has since been suspended for gambling on the team's games. Here's a PSA if you're a college athlete. Don't fucking do that. Like, don't fucking do that, please. Sneaky. Iowa State went 1-8 in the Big 12 last year and went 4-8. They were the worst team in the Big 12. And like people aren't talking about that because Matt Campbell like used to be talked about as getting like one of these premier coaching jobs. And over the last few seasons, they have just been dreadful.
They beat Iowa last year, I think, which is kind of wild. Yeah, they still went 4-8, so they're a bad team, and they beat their rival, their state rival, which I don't think they'll do again. So, no. I have them at 3-9, dropping or they're winning Northern Iowa, Ohio, and then Kansas. I have them beating.
Yeah, I have them at 4-8. I have them beating TCU and BYU. But I also made this prediction prior to the knowledge that their starting quarterback was going to be suspended. I'm going to be honest. I probably would switch the TCU game now, and put him down at 3-9. I just this seems like oh shit, we have controversy with players betting, and then 2 straight years where they finish at the bottom of the Big 12. Like maybe it's time for a change of scenery with Matt Campbell. Like I would not be surprised. If we're talking about Iowa State looking for a new head coach this next
I'm
offseason.
actually willing to guarantee that happens. Yeah, there's no way they aren't.
The G word. Yeah, the guarantee.
Yeah, Campbell's fired after the year. Yep.
That's bold. That's bold.
Yeah, like we'll put it on a post-it note and frame it. Like I have that. Yeah.
We can make a graphic. I'll clip this. Iowa State head coach guaranteed to be fired postseason.
Right. And that's a decently enticing job. So,
Yeah, I mean, Power 5.
We'll see. But yeah, 3-9, not a good year for Iowa State.
Yep. So that's about all it does for the Cyclones there. Let's talk about Kansas. I got a hunch that we are going to be a little separated here. Kansas was 6-7 last season. They made it to a bowl game. Like with all things considered, it was a very good season for Kansas football. I think they could do it again. I think they could go bowling 2 consecutive years for the Kansas Jayhawks. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Let's go. Okay, so we're not.
We agree. We agree. Let's go. I have them starting 5-1, which is crazy. I didn't like that because I was like, oh my God, Kansas. Like they were ranked 25th, I think, for 1 week last year or something.
Yeah, they were ranked because they started.
My buddies are Kansas, went to Kansas, and they were that was their favorite moment of their life, being ranked.
Yeah.
And obviously by the end of the year, they're losing by 30 again and blah blah blah, doing Kansas stuff. And I just see a similar script this year. They have Missouri State, an Illinois team that we covered the Big Ten. I'm not very high on Illinois. Nevada, who's not good. BYU, who isn't good. And then, obviously, Texas, they lose. But then UCF at home, I think they could sneak out and win that one. And then I think I have them losing the last 5 games of the season. So
I don't hate that at all. I think we're close to the same record, but wildly different wins and losses. I have them at 7-5. I have them winning Iowa State at the end of the year. I have them beating Cincinnati at the end of the year. And I also have them beating Oklahoma after their bye week.
Okay.
Which might be one of my more bold takes of the offseason. I will admit it.
Yeah. I can't see that happening.
But they do play like a fairly favorable schedule. They get Central Florida at home. They get BYU at home. Kansas State and Texas Tech, they get both of those games at home, even though I have them losing them both. But Jalen Daniels, before he got hurt last year, was like a tremendous quarterback. Like he was very, very good. 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions last season before he got hurt. His passer rating was 162. I mean, he was just incredible.
It's Jaden, right? I'm making is Jalen. Who's Jaden Daniels, LSU, and Jalen Daniels is Kansas.
Yes,
I just wanted to make sure because that trips me up.
But
similar like play styles too. But
and very good quarterbacks.
And he got hurt, and that was kind of a little bit of the demise for that team. But like Kansas is like it's the regression to the mean argument that like their last good season was 2007, which like is almost an asterisk season in all of college football. It was the craziest year of all time.
Yep.
And so Kansas has just been bad for so long that there's no way that last year was just like a fluke, and now there are 10 more years of 3-win seasons for Kansas. Teams can't. It just can't. They can't be that bad for that long, especially with how much money the basketball team is making you. Like, invest some shit in the football program, get a good coach, and figure it out. And I think they have at least enough to make another bowl game at 6-6, and maybe they'll win one. Maybe they'll finish above 500 for the first time like this century.
Yeah.
So,
and I like Lance Leipold is a good head coach. Like he's a really good head coach for that program. And they're doing renovations to the stadium. Like they're putting some money
like committed
into it
to making that. It's like reminds me of what Liberty is doing, like in the Group of 5 world, where it's like disgusting, and then it's like out of nowhere, flip the switch. We're gonna spend so much money to try to make this an enticing place to come play. So yeah, I always root for Kansas. It's like the Browns of the college football world. So
that's a fair point. A team that would hate for us to say that though is Kansas State, and I'm going to be honest. Kansas State won the Big 12 last year. They are your Big 12 champions, even though that TCU went to the playoff. I think that this Kansas State team might be as good or better than last year's Kansas State team.
Whoa.
They bring back Will Howard. He is a phenomenal quarterback. I think he might be the best quarterback in the Big 12, not named Quinn Ewers. He's a very talented kid. I also think that Chris Kleiman is the best head coach in the Big 12 right now, outside of maybe like Sonny Dykes, if you want to count Lance Leipold because of what he's doing like at Kansas. But I have Chris Kleiman as one of the top 20 coaches in the country. Their offense is going to be good. I have them as a top 20 offense this season, even without Deuce Vaughn. Like they are a very, very good team. Their win total is 7.5. I have them well above that.
Okay, well, so my biggest thing with Kansas State is that I think Deuce Vaughn meant more to that program than any running back I can think of in recent history. Like losing him, the offense just like I watched a lot of Kansas State, and they have to get worse. They just have to. I do like Will Howard, but they just have to get worse. I'm not surprised that it's 7.5. I like that. I didn't know that. I have them at 8-4. I think they are worse this year. I do think that they're a very mentally tough team. They're like a mature team. They're very well coached, and 8-4 is still a good season, right? They had 4 losses last year. Like they could go 9-4 at the end of this year. It's kind of the same season. I just don't see them making a great bowl game by any means like they did last year. I have them losing to Missouri, UCF, Oklahoma State, and Texas.
That's fair. So I have them at 10-2. I have them at 10-2. I have them losing to Oklahoma State and Baylor. I have them beating Texas. I have them beating, Kansas, Houston, TCU, all those teams.
Beating Texas at Texas.
I have them beating Texas at Texas.
That's probably bolder than Kansas beating Oklahoma. I don't know. Both of those are pretty bold, though. Write those on Post-it notes.
All right. Hey, we'll do it. But I have Kansas State like 10-2. I love. I'm very high on this Kansas State team. That might be a hill that I end up dying on, but hey, so be it. Let's talk Oklahoma. OU. One of the most disappointing seasons we've seen from a Power 5 team in a long, long time. They had like unbelievable aspirations with Brent Venables coming in, and Dylan Gabriel getting hurt certainly does not help. They got schmacked by Texas. What are your thoughts on this or Oklahoma team?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dylan Gabriel's getting slept on a little bit.
He follows me on Instagram, by the way.
Oh, that's cool.
Shout out.
Oh, yeah. Shout out Dylan Gabriel if you are watching this. But I'm being genuine. Like I really think that people have forgotten about him. Like a lot, like people just toss him in with like Mackenzie Milton, like, oh, the UCF, guys that came and transferred to Power 5 conferences and didn't do anything. It's like, he's still great and he's still there and he's got the job strangleholded. And if he doesn't succeed, right, don't they have Jackson Arnold right behind him, true freshman?
Yep.
So, and Jackson Arnold was the number 1 rated he's a 5-star guy.
Depending on the service that you use, he was the number 1 on some of those
some sites
recruiting
had him
platforms.
number 1, which is crazy. But he's fantastic. I'm still a Venables guy. Maybe I'm biased. I did go to Clemson, but I think he has the energy. Once he gets in his rhythm, it's going to be like a freight train kind of vibe with Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they absolutely have the talent. They're one of the teams that did well in the transfer window. And I have them going 10-2. I do. I have them losing to Texas and losing to UCF.
So I also have them going 10-2. I like this Oklahoma team. I'm glad we're both high on them. The UCF game will be so fun. Dylan Gabriel against his former team. Like that'll be a very fun game. I believe they play right after they play those two teams back to back. There is a bye week in between, but like that should be a very fun game for them. This Oklahoma team should be good. Their win total is 9.5, and it is tied with Texas. Wow. They're the only two. They're the only two teams with a win total above 7.5 in this conference. So
wow. So Vegas just thinks the Big 12 has no playoff chance this year.
Yes. Yeah. You are 100% correct, and I think they're right. I don't have a
funny enough. Yeah, I that's what I have. Again, I have not looked at these win totals. I have Oklahoma 10-2. I don't have any team more than 10 wins. I'm right there with Vegas on this one, which is normally a good thing. So,
yep.
Yeah. And I agree that UCF game will be electric. We'll get to UCF in a little, but I'm excited about UCF.
Yep. The other thing too with this Oklahoma, like they play a very easy schedule outside, which it's not their fault. They were supposed to play Georgia, but them moving to the SEC, they ended up nixing that game. But the Oklahoma schedule is unbelievably easy. They don't play. The only teams they played that were even remotely good last year were Oklahoma State, TCU, and Texas. Like outside of that, they don't play hardly any. Well, I guess UCF, but they were 9-3 in G5. So, but let's talk Oklahoma State, who I think might have an even easier schedule than Oklahoma. This team plays all of their conference games that are worth a damn at home. They play Kansas State at home. They play Kansas at home. They play Cincinnati at home. They play Oklahoma at home. They play BYU at home. The only road games they have this year are at Arizona State, easy, at Iowa State, easy, at West Virginia, easy, and then at UCF and Houston. Like,
yeah,
they lucked out with their schedule big time.
Yeah, it's interesting, I guess. Again, well, okay, so this is what I'll say is that my darling Group of 5 team this year, other than Boise State, is South Alabama. I love that team. I also like Liberty a lot, but I love South Alabama. I think they have a chance to like play in the Fiesta Bowl or something.
Yep.
So I have South Alabama beating Oklahoma State, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is bold, but not as like it looks a lot more bold than it actually is. Like that should be a good game.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited. South Alabama has like chip on their shoulder big time. Like I love watching them play. I have Oklahoma State starting 4-1, and then they lose to Kansas. I have them losing at West Virginia just because, like, and we'll get to West Virginia. I don't think West Virginia is good. I think that might be the one game I have them winning in the conference. But I don't think Oklahoma State's all that great. Maybe I watched that Kansas State Oklahoma State game last year, and it was so embarrassing. And then they lost their quarterback and a bunch of other pieces, and it's just. But then I have them beating Cincinnati, losing to Oklahoma, losing to UCF, losing to Houston, and losing to BYU. I have them finishing 5-7.
Wow.
Yeah, BYU. That one was kind of tough, just because Oklahoma State is at home. But
that's fair.
Again, I just kind of wanted to give BYU one. I feel like they could have it.
So, how do you feel if I tell you that their win total is 6.5?
I mean, again, I was between 5-7, 6-6. There are a lot of teams that are 6.5 that I have 7 or 8 wins, so I'm just on the low side this time. Makes sense. I would bet the under.
Now, how do you feel knowing that I have them 10-2?
Oh my God! Wow, that's got to be one of the biggest differences that we have.
If I had to have my bold takes of the offseason, this is one of them. Mike Gundy, this is a stat. I heard it. I was listening to Unnecessary Roughness, the Barstool Sports College Football podcast. Mike Gundy has not had a losing season in 17 years at Oklahoma State. 17 consecutive seasons he has not had a losing record at Oklahoma State. He's a damn good coach. He is exactly what you like. He's a Stillwater guy through and through. I think in years that like you're not talking about Oklahoma State, that's when they are the most dangerous. This is much more of a vibes pick than anything. This is absolutely more of a vibes pick than anything. They do bring in Alan Bowman at quarterback instead of Spencer Sanders, which I think Sanders has been up and down for Oklahoma State over the past couple of years. He now transferred to Ole Miss. I'm higher on this Oklahoma State team than I should be, and I know that, and that's okay. I have them going 10-2. I might be so wrong, but yeah.
I feel like Oklahoma State's like almost entering like a panic rebuild state right now, where they lost their defensive coordinator, they lost people to the portal, they didn't recruit that well, they didn't get that many people from the portal, and they just need to figure it out. That was my vibe, and I don't know anything really about their quarterback. But I guess, Mike Gundy, that stat doesn't lie, right? Right? Like 17 straight years, I respect it. I love a vibe pick too. I have a couple of them.
Yeah.
This one just isn't one of them, and I kind of use my frontal lobe primarily to decide that they were going to go 5-7.
God damn it, you piece of shit. I actually used my brain.
I thought about it. No. I mean, again, we've differed on a couple things, and it'll be really fun to see at the end of the year who was right where. There's no way we're both I'm going to be all right, you're going to be all wrong, and vice versa. So this is just chalk this up to another one, right? Another one of the South Carolina ones. So
absolutely. So let's move on to TCU. Everybody remembers the national championship game because they got their ass just beat to a pulp.
I don't want to stop. We're skipping Texas, right?
I had TCU. I had TCU above Texas in the order of.
In the order, okay.
I guess Texas technically is in
Texas
alphabetical order.
Christian, but yeah, no, that's. I just want to make sure that you didn't skip anything. But
no,
TCU. Let's do TCU.
Yeah, I'm horny for the Horned Frogs.
Right, as are we all.
Obviously, they had an unbelievable run last year, right? Let's not get that twisted. All respect to what they did last year. They deserved to be in the college football playoff. Anybody who says otherwise is an idiot. They went 11-1 or 12-1, right? 12-0 in the regular season with a loss in the conference championship. They deserved to be there. When they got there, they beat Michigan. And somehow everybody forgets that they beat the Big Ten champs. And for some reason, they didn't belong on the playing floor because they lost to Georgia, which is...
This is my thing. I love what you're saying because Michigan beat Ohio State.
Yes.
And Ohio State nearly lost to Georgia, right?
Yep.
And TCU beat the team that nearly lost to Georgia. TCU beat the team in Michigan that beat the team that nearly lost to Georgia.
Yeah.
So therefore, before the TCU Georgia game, logic says TCU and Georgia tied.
Yeah.
It didn't happen that way, but that's football, right?
Yep.
TCU absolutely deserved to be there. Maybe in a different world, it was TCU Georgia in the semifinal, and then Ohio State plays Georgia and beats them 65-7. And it's a whole different scenario we're talking about. You can't say that that's impossible, right? So I hate the people that are like, oh, TCU, most embarrassing loss of all time. It's like, that is probably the best season. The fans are thrilled going into the season, like loving football again, I'm happy for the people up in Fort Worth. So what do you have now?
They should be.
They should be right.
I have them at 8-4, which I don't like. They had so many games that were 1-point losses last year, or they played teams where their quarterback got hurt, which was actually insane. That being said, 8-4, their win total is 7.5. That's still above their win total. So I think that they could have a really strong season. For what it's worth, I have them starting 7-0.
I have them starting 7-0 as well. Yep. I have them at 9-3. Okay. I think Sonny Dykes is a legend. He's, in my opinion, top 5 contention for a top 5 coach in college football.
Damn.
I think going into last year, people said, this roster stinks. And, they don't have talent, right? Who's their quarterback? Blah, blah, blah. And Max Duggan goes to New York for the Heisman ceremony. And Quentin Johnston gets to be a first-round pick. When we'll have to see what happens with Quentin Johnston, but, maybe it's possible he didn't deserve that first-round pick. He's not as amazing as you made him look, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The thing for me is losing Garrett Riley loses a lot of the creativity.
Yep.
But I think that they develop and get the most out of their players more than almost any team right now in college football. And so I think this next crop of people, even though they lost Kendre Miller and freaking Duggan and all these people, I think I see them going 9-3. They lose to Kansas State. I have them beating Texas, losing to Texas Tech, and losing to Oklahoma at the end of the year. 9-3, which is a great season.
Yep. So the only game that we're different here is I have Texas winning that game, but that's the only spot we're different. I mean, this is it. They're in line to have a really good season. They had a couple transfers come in. I believe they had a transfer come in from Alabama on defense. They're going to have some dudes again. People forget Chandler Morris was supposed to be the starting quarterback of that team last year before he got hurt and Duggan
he
came in.
He has starting experience. He started for TCU 2 years ago, right? He's a mature vet now in this system under their coach. Yes, he has a new offensive coordinator. That I'm just again that I am kind of going into that blind. I don't know how that's going to work, but under the assumption that it's going to go kind of smoothly, I'm excited about TCU again, and I think they thrive when they're getting slept on. 7.5 feels low. I would take the over very confidently. That's actually one of my favorites.
Yep, I like that as well. I like that as well. But let's talk Texas. Right, they are plus 100 to win the Big 12. Vegas has them as close as you can get to being an outright favorite without being the outright favorite. Their win total is 9.5. The last time Texas won the Big 12, I believe, was 2009. So it's been a while. Steve Sarkisian has some expectations. They have Quinn Ewers, who was the number one quarterback prospect ever when he came into college. Their roster legitimately is stacked. Like, they have a phenomenal roster top to bottom.
Yeah. We saw Quinn Ewers, what he could do against Bama last year, and then he got hurt. And then Texas was kind of derailed a little bit and didn't end up, as Texas always does, they went 8-5. But I do think that it would be a cathartic moment for college football for them to win the Big 12 and then leave and have this ongoing memory that they were the Big 12, even though they went 15 years without winning it, right, before they left. I love Ewers. I love Xavier Worthy. They remind me of like a Big 12 version of Florida State, roster-wise.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that comparison.
I just think at Alabama is too tough. Even though I'm not sold on Bama, I just think at Alabama is too tough. And it's annoying that Oklahoma was about to play Georgia and they got rid of that game, but they're keeping Texas Bama. That's annoying. But
yeah.
And like I just said, I have Texas losing at TCU. That I flipped back and forth. I almost had Texas going 11-1. I don't though. I have them 10-2, but I do have them winning the conference. So they'll get a New Year's Six game, but not the playoff at 10-2.
So I have Texas going 9-3. I have them going under their win total. Losing to Alabama. You don't go into Bryant-Denny and win football games there. You just don't.
Yeah. It's just too tough.
Yeah. I'm gonna look it up, but I think Alabama. When did Saban get to Alabama? Was that 2008?
07 or 08, probably 08.
Okay, so since 2008, as a home team, where are we at? Yeah, as a home team since 2008, Alabama is 98-5.
Yeah, we talked about that Oregon stat. It's nothing. Bama.
They are 98-5.
Look up Clemson's for at home, because I'm betting it's up there as well. Clemson's home record's got to be crazy. Like
they're 93-9 since 2008.
Yeah, 93-9 since 08, which Clemson, that was Dabo's first year, but Clemson took a little while to get the ball moving. Yeah. And they're still 93-9. Like there are a couple teams that you just, if they're playing at home, they're winning. That's just the rule.
Yep.
I'm not gonna say that my jaw wouldn't be dropped on the floor if Texas won that game. I'm actually definitely going to be rooting for Texas to win that game, because as a Bama hater, but I can't predict it. Like you just said, Bama doesn't lose at home, so I'm with you there. But so that means that you have Oklahoma State and Oklahoma bedlam battle in the Big 12 championship, or we'll wait and we'll see. But
I have it's Kansas State and Oklahoma.
Oh, okay, because you have Kansas State 10-2 as well. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Although I would love a Bedlam, like just because that, like them we're not playing Bedlam anymore. We don't want to play Bedlam anymore. Like after they move and the contention with that.
And it just happens to work out that they have a final Bedlam and it's for the conference. That would be, oh, the
That would
Big
be
12
kick
has
ass.
so many storylines that are potential greats. Like that's why it's so hard to catch a vibe with this conference.
I agree. I
It's
agree,
so
man.
tough.
It's insane. But yeah, I have Texas going 9-3. Um, uh, well, I think Texas fans would be disappointed with 9-3. I truly
Yeah,
believe
but
that.
Texas fans are used to being disappointed. I guess I have them. I have them being pretty happy at 10-2.
Yeah,
They're content, right? But they're still going to find a way to complain,
yeah.
some way, some shape, somehow. Even if they go 11-2, they win the conference. Yeah, I mean that's a great season. So I am kind of high on Texas, you could say. So
Yep. Texas Tech, the last team in Texas we got to talk about, is a lot of people are high on this team. I am one of them. That being said, I don't know. Like their defense should be better, right? It should be improved, but their defense still isn't great. Their offense should be good, but I don't have them at some sort of elite status. What are your thoughts on Texas Tech?
well, it's kind of like we were about to say. I feel like they're just such a middle of the pack team. They were last year. They kind of scream mid to me.
Mhm.
And, obviously both of us probably follow a ton of college football content on all socials. And it just feels like once a week I'm seeing like, here are like the sleepers no one's thinking about this year. And every time it's Texas Tech. And
Yep.
I sit through the video or I read the comments and people are like, so true. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a trap. Like, I'm watching people fall into this trap right now. What's their win total? Is 6.5, 7?
Their win total is 7.5.
7.5. All right. So people are saying like, oh, they're going to go 10-2 and win the conference. No, I have the under. I have them at 7-5. You have them beating Oregon, or am
I
I
do have
tripping?
them beating Oregon.
You have them
Yep.
beating Oregon. Nope, no way. In my opinion,
In Lubbock, first home
yeah,
game of the
no, I
year.
don't. Oregon is way more dynamic in the rushing game and the passing game. And I think they're better, well coached. And like I said earlier, Oregon's not going to lose their big out of conference game again, in my opinion. So then I have Texas Tech losing at Baylor. Again, Baylor and Texas Tech. I feel similar vibes this year. I have them losing to Kansas State. I have them losing to UCF, who we have not gotten to,
Yep.
and I have them losing to Texas.
Yep. I have them losing to Kansas State, Baylor, and Central Florida. I have them beating Texas. I have them at 9-3, so above the win total. I guess I am on the like, hey, don't sleep on Texas Tech, but I don't have them like anything insane. 6-3 in the conference, right? So like a good season, but outside of that, like nothing crazy. I mean, Joey McGuire is a
Yeah.
good coach, but like Tyler Show was good before he got hurt. Like, but you know what I
Just
mean? Like I don't have it.
nothing screams potential with this team
Yeah,
for me. So
that's fair.
I feel pretty confident. If it's 7.5, I probably won't take it. Maybe if I still have a little time to think about it, but
Yep.
I would lean under. So, but yeah, now we get to go to UCF.
Yep. So UCF, I just made a video on my Instagram that came out today. But my dumbass looked at the schedule wrong, and I had them at 6-6 when I made the video, and it turns out I have them at 7-5. So oops.
Okay, I didn't see the video.
So if you haven't seen the video, or if you have seen the video, just know that this is the true prediction. So that's bonus points for listening to the podcast. Like that's what you should do.
Right.
The podcast has better information.
And feel free to go comment on the video, like, oh, like guys, you made a mistake. Like it happens. Like don't judge him.
Yeah. But I like UCF. There are a lot of like TCU. We both have starting 7-0. UCF, I have almost the exact opposite. I have UCF starting 2-5.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have
So
UCF.
we're very different here.
I
Yeah.
have UCF starting 2-5 and then finishing 7-5. I have them winning their last 5 games.
Um. Okay. So I one UCF has since like 2016. I feel like they've been dying to prove themselves,
Mhm.
like dying, and the culture there is still the same, in my opinion, as it was back then. And they still like they went undefeated and then beat Joe Burrow, right?
Yeah.
and people are like, oh, stupid UCF calling themselves a national championship. I hate that team. It's like they are so pissed off. I can imagine, and now they get to play in the Big 12 with I think the best roster of the teams coming in.
Yes.
So I think they have the best.
100% yes.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they have the best chance to actually really succeed, especially with this chip on their shoulder that like all of these games once they get to conference season are going to be like primetime ESPN, like big games. I do have them losing to Boise State. We'll get to the G5
Same.
teams. Yeah, I love
Let's
Boise State.
go.
I love Boise State. Um, but then I have UCF beating Kansas State on the road. I have them beating Baylor. I have them beating Oklahoma on the road. I have them beating West
Wow.
Virginia. Like I have them beating Oklahoma State and Texas Tech and Houston. Like their losses are almost the games that like how are you losing this game? Because they like this is where I'm talking about like the storylines of the Big 12.
Yep.
Like they're talent wise, not like substantially higher than like a Kansas or something like that. But I think their chip on their shoulder, their yearningness to prove their worth is going to get them over the hump against some of the better teams. But then they drop the game at Kansas, and they drop the game at Cincinnati, and like they go 9-3 with 3 games they easily could have won, and it's like wow, what a season from UCF. Even though they went 9-3, they could have gone like undefeated,
Damn.
which is so crazy to say. But I do have them at 9-3. But again, they don't play Texas, right? They don't play TCU. Their schedule's easier than
Mhm.
most teams in this conference. So I like it. I like it. This is kind of my boldish Big 12 take here.
Yeah, I don't
like
hate it. Their
UCF.
win total's 7, so I don't hate that at all. And
I have them playing in the Cheez-Its Bowl against Miami as well. Just throwing that out there.
the Cheez-It
Down in-
Bowl, excellent.
Yeah, so that should be fun.
All right, let's talk about the last team in the Big 12, West Virginia. My analysis of this team is going to be very, very short, sweet, and to the point. I think there is a chance that Neil Brown is fired before the end of September. I think it doesn't matter how he does this season. He is going to be fired. It is the biggest case of dead man walking I think I've seen in the last like 5 or 6 years in college football. He's gone. Like there's no way that they retain him. The only reason they didn't fire him last year is because they couldn't afford to. The state of football in the Virginia and West Virginia area is in the worst shape I've seen in a lot between Virginia, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia. None of those teams are going to make a bowl game. They are all terrible. Marshall has the best chance out of any of those schools.
Liberty and JMU. Liberty and JMU State. So you're willing to do the Matt Campbell guarantee that I did for Iowa State with
100%.
Yeah, that makes
100%.
sense. I haven't looked into it as much as you. I know that they wanted to fire him. I know that the West Virginia athletic director is in a state of panic just because Bob Huggins is like doing whatever he's doing, driving.
The vibes at West Virginia are not good right now.
Like the athletic director, I honestly think he's probably on the hot seat as well. From the president of the college, is like, how did you let it get to this point? I think, West Virginia, if you're like about to look at schools and you're like 16 years old and you're a sports fan, I'd probably stray away from going to West Virginia because you're going to see a lot of really sorry teams. I have them going 3-9. And like you said it at the very beginning of this episode, the worst teams in the conference to you are West Virginia and Cincinnati. For me, it's Iowa State, West Virginia. 2 teams I think their coaches are gone. West Virginia, they'll beat BYU. I haven't beaten Oklahoma State at home. We went over that earlier. And then I haven't beaten Duquesne. but losing to Penn State, obviously, and then I have them losing to Pitt. So that's a pretty tough out of conference.
Yeah, I have them beating Pitt in just a fuck it we ball game, like
rivalry, big rivalry.
Yeah, throw out the record books or whatever. But yeah, I have them beating Duquesne and Pitt. They might lose by 50 to Penn State in Happy Valley week 1. This team is. What I would love to see is the look on the Mormons' faces of BYU fans when they travel to Morgantown, West Virginia. I will be very interested to see that.
Oh, that's so funny. That's a great point. Like, yeah, the missionaries are like watching the tailgates go down. Guy with a mullet is like
drinking a PBR out of a coon skin, like
like. That'll be funny. But yeah, 3-9. You have them 2-10.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Both terrible records. And what a great way to finish the Big 12 for us.
Yep. So to wrap up the Big 12, I have Kansas State and Oklahoma playing in the Big 12 championship. And I'm going to take Kansas State in that game. I think the Wildcats go back-to-back and assert themselves as the team to beat in the new Big 12 going forward. I think Chris Kleiman is going to be the coach of the year, but I think the player of the year is going to be Quinn Ewers. I think he's still going to be great, but I don't know.
Yeah. I have Texas, Oklahoma. Again,
that'd be awesome. That would be awesome.
A bit predictable or a bit like too much of a popular pick. Vegas thinks those are the two best teams. So do I. Again, TCU's right there behind them, and UCF is right there behind them. So we'll have to see. Coach of the year. Well, I have Texas beating Oklahoma, so I guess they sweep Oklahoma, and then Texas plays in the Fiesta Bowl against Boise State.
There we go.
Fantastic.
There we go. Again, I'm going to be on it.
I'll be talking about all the bowl game predictions. I'm going to be going crazy.
Dude, I would love if Oklahoma were to win that game and play Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl again.
Oh my God. A rematch.
Dude, there's
those two teams would be fantastic.
Storylines, dude. There's just too many storylines in the Big 12 this year. Incredible.
But coach of the year, we'll give it to UCF because they go 9-3 in the new conference. Player of the year,
don't hate that.
Player of the year, I almost want to give to Xavier Worthy, but
I don't.
We'll have to see. I'll call it now. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
So there's the Big 12, folks, and that wraps it up.
That wraps it up. All Power 5 conferences done. If you want to see more of our stuff, we are going to do in-season content all season long. We're going to talk about our favorite group of 5 teams coming up. We are going to talk about, week 0 and in all of its beauty here shortly. College football is upon us. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. After this episode, we'll probably do week 0 and talk our college football playoff and that sort of thing, give our talk about our favorite group of 5 teams, and football's here. We're back.
And Notre Dame fans get excited because that's coming up as well, which awesome that we got 150 subscribers. Blew it out of the water.
Yeah,
I wonder what by the time we post this,
we'll be at 200. We'll be at 200 probably. I got a hunch. The people got us. Like we're a group. We're a tight knit community. We're getting to 200. I can feel it in our bones. Yeah. We're gonna have 200 by the time we post this.
Yep, absolutely. We'll try to start interacting. Maybe doing some things where you guys can hop on, give your take, stuff like that. Like, yeah.
I like it.
Bunch of cool ideas. So just stay tuned. Get excited. And thanks for watching.
Absolutely. We'll see you in the next one.